wonder when are we going to participate in a marathon?
I don't think I have that much energy to run. I wonder where the marathon runners get their energy.
Do you know where does the human energy comes from?
It's very hot here. Let us continue our jog at the lakeside.
You're right.
Let's go.
Hi, I'm Liza, and this is Mardiana.
Hi.
And Irene.
Hi.
We are biology teachers from Sri Putri, Hulu Selangor, and Tunku Munawir Secondary Science Schools in Malaysia. Let's discuss the question Irene asked just now. Where does human energy comes from? Where does human energy comes from? Humans obtain energy from three classes of food: carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. Carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins are major food classes and serve as a fuel molecule for a human body. Carbohydrates are the body's main source of energy and are key fuel source for exercise and sport. Pasta, bread, rice, milk, potatoes, fruits, vegetables, cereals, and popcorn are all high in carbohydrates. Foods that are mostly protein include meat, fish, chicken, eggs, beans, and dairy products. Some examples of food that contain lipids are butter, oils, nuts, meat, fish, and some dairy products.
The digestion or breaking down of foods into smaller pieces later occurs in the alimentary tract to become nutrient. Carbohydrates are easily digested and broken down into glucose, the most simple and common sugar found in the body. Proteins are digested into amino acid, while lipid is broken down into fatty acid and glycerol. Ileum, the last part of small intestine, is the major site of nutrient absorption. Ileum is highly folded and covered entirely with tiny, finger-like projection known as villi. To enter body cells, glucose and amino acid must be transported across the ileum into bloodstream, while fatty acid and glycerol will be absorbed into lacteal. Movement of nutrient from ileum into blood capillary and lacteal is called absorption. Glucose, amino acid, fatty acid, and glycerol are transported by blood circulatory system to body cells. Assimilation takes place in the body cells where nutrients are converted into energy. When body needs energy, it first uses glucose from carbohydrate, then fatty acids from fat. Protein is not turned into energy if there are enough sources besides protein. Carbohydrates digested at faster rate and offer a more continual and stable flow of energy. Lipid is put faster into storage. Fatty acid is not a small molecule such as glucose, which is 6 carbon atoms. Fatty acid has 24 carbons long and it takes longer time to convert into energy. Even though you can get energy from protein, it is not the best choice. It takes longer time to turn protein into energy compared to carbohydrate and lipid. Beside carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms, it has nitrogen atoms that need longer time to remove if body cells want to turn it into sugar and later into energy. Furthermore, proteins are needed to perform other functions such as muscle building, enzyme, and hormones.
Marathon runner needs to sustain their energy for a long period of time. How the marathon runner gets their energy for a long distance running? Now students, you'll have to get into groups and develop your own diagrams or flowchart of what you understand about the process to be from eating the protein, carbohydrates and lipids in order to get energy for the running. Have fun discussing and develop the diagram and flowchart. See you in a while. How does the marathon runner get their energy for a long distance running? As for the marathon runners, they get their energy from stored form of glucose made of many connected glucose molecules and are called glycogen.
Glycogen is a storage form of glucose in animals and humans, which is analogous to the starch in plants. Glycogen is synthesized and stored in the liver and the muscles. When the marathon runner needs a quick boost of energy, glycogen is broken down to release glucose to be used as fuel for the muscle cells to contract, and the run continues.
Muscle glycogen is the more suitable energy supply. There are two reasons for the answer. Firstly, the glycogen muscle supplies higher energy compared to the liver because the muscle comprises of more mass of cells compared to liver. Secondly, during the marathon, the glycogen in the muscle will supply energy immediately due to the transport of glycogen to the muscle cells is faster. A well-nourished adult can store approximately 500 grams or 2,000 kilocalories of carbohydrates, which is enough to run about 20 miles. Of these, approximately 400 grams are stored as muscle glycogen, 90 to 110 grams as liver glycogen, and 25 grams circulate in the blood as glucose. All types of carbohydrate consumed will be digested into glucose and absorbed into the bloodstream and transported into the liver. The excess glucose will be sent to muscle to be converted into glycogen. When the body needs more glucose than is available in bloodstream to support energy demands, glycogen stores are used to raise blood glucose levels. However, it is important to understand that the glycogen stored in muscle is used directly by that muscle during exercise. It cannot borrow glycogen from other resting muscles. As for the marathon runners, they need to make sure that their glycogen are stored and fully topped up at the start line. To increase the glycogen stores, some marathon runners indulge in what is known as carbo loading for 3 days before the marathon. Carbo loading means increasing the intake of carbohydrates that will increase energy level and the further the runners can run. By loading on carbohydrates, the body will store reserves in the form of adenosine triphosphate or ATP. Carbohydrate loading takes advantage of carbohydrate metabolic process. This is where cellular respiration plays its part. Cellular respiration is the set of metabolic reactions and processes that take place in the cells of organisms to convert biochemical energy from nutrients into ATP. Meaning, when you eat a much larger percentage of carbohydrates than protein or fat, an abundance of ATP is produced. If it is not used, it is stored in the form of glycogen in the liver and muscle fibers. During extended running, the glycogen is released and converted to energy. To learn more about cellular respiration and ATP, I would suggest you to watch a Blossom video on ATP entitled Fuel of Life to gain prior knowledge on cellular respiration and ATP. You may want to watch the video in the class with your teacher and friends or at any convenient time by yourself. Please refer to this link.
The key is to understand that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but it can be converted from one form to another. This is exactly what happens when we ingest our food and it gets digested and transformed into ATP. This is happening in a process called cellular metabolism. So let's take an initial look at how this happens. Cellular metabolism, where energy is extracted from food and converted into energy storage molecules, is a very complex affair. However, the details are of no concern to us here. Rather, I'd like to briefly walk you through the breakdown pathways of three major food groups: proteins, sugars, and fats, to show you that they all end in two common pathways. First, the citric acid cycle, illustrated here in the middle of the figure shown on the left and named after one of its main molecules, citric acid. And second, a process called oxidative phosphorylation, marked by the green arrow below the citric acid cycle. As you can see, all three food groups feed into these pathways where the vast majority of ATP is made in our cells.
Now students, try to figure this out. Which of these menus make a good meal before race for carbo loading? Have fun figuring it out. See you in a while.
Which of the previous menus make a good meal before race for carbo loading? Let's compare your answers. Menu 1 and 7 are the most suitable meal because it has high carbohydrate content for higher glycogen storage. Menu 2 and 4 are less suitable because it has higher protein content. Menu 3 and 6 are also less suitable because it contains less carbohydrate than menu 1 and 7. Menu 5 is also less suitable because it contains simple sugar. You need to make sure you are eating the right kind of carbohydrates for the race. On the race day, marathon runners eat light meals which are low on the glycemic index or GI. The glycemic index or GI is a value associated with a particular type of carbohydrate that indicates the food's effect on a person's blood glucose level. The GI represents the total rise in a person's blood sugar level following consumption of the food. It may or may not represent the rapidity of the rise in blood sugar. Foods low on the glycemic index is metabolized more slowly, giving you a steady supply of energy. On the other hand, food high on the glycemic index is metabolized more rapidly, giving you a faster supply of energy. I hope my explanation helps. Back to you, Mardiana.
Thanks, Irene. Since Irene mentioned about GI, I want you to answer this question based on a graph which will be provided to you by your teacher. Will you be able to choose high GI food from the given data? Why food with high GI is not suitable to be eaten on the race day? Let us find out in the next activity. You were given a graph during the activity which indicates a comparison of the blood glucose response to sweet potatoes, regular white potatoes with kayapo, and glucose drink. Based on the graph, you have been asked these questions. Will you be able to choose high GI food from the given data? Why food with high GI is not suitable to be eaten on the race day?
The graph depicts that sweet potato flesh has the highest level of glucose in the blood in 30 minutes and has the fastest time to change carbohydrate into glucose. This indicates that sweet potato flesh has the highest GI. In the other hand, the white potato has lower GI than the sweet potato. This is because the white potato and the sweet potato has different starch and sugar content which affect the digestion rate. White potato has less sugar content and sweet potato. The glucose drink, which acts as a control in this experiment, really shows rapid increase in blood glucose level, since the drink contained only glucose content. High amount of glucose will provide boost of energy and then rapidly cleanse from the bloodstream. The energy supply suddenly depletes.
Foods with a high GI score is not suitable to be eaten on the race day because it is rapidly digested carbohydrate, which produces a large rapid rise and fall in the level of blood glucose. The runner will not be able to sustain the energy to finish the run.
Based on the scene just now, the runner that stopped halfway and has reached a condition that we call as the hitting wall condition. This condition may stop you from reaching the finishing line. The hitting wall condition is caused by the depletion of glycogen stores in the liver and muscles, caused sudden fatigue and loss of energy. Most runners will experience that condition. To overcome hitting the wall condition, runners could bring along a little packet of energy gel. These gels contain a mixture of simple carbohydrates made of 1 or 2 sugar molecules, which contains approximately 100 calories, and complex carbohydrates made of long chains of glucose molecules, which give you an energy boost. So, consuming 1 to 2 energy gels and a few cups of sport drinks will provide energy that lasts for 2 hours. The runners can also consume energy bar before, during, or after exercise. Energy bar is supplemental bar containing cereal and high energy foods that is not more than 200 calories. Lisa will explain to you of the next activity.
Now, you are given table A and B to mix and match ingredients of your recommended energy bar to marathoner.
Based on the information from table A and B, choose from 4 categories: cereal, dried fruit, nuts, and extras. You will have to follow instructions given by your teacher and design your own energy bar for marathoner. You will also have to explain on the relevance of the ingredients used in your energy bar. See you in a while. Good energy bar should contain 200 calories with 10 grams of protein, about 40 to 50 grams of carbohydrates, 2 to 6 grams of fat, and should not contain high sugar such as fructose corn syrup. They are high in carbohydrates which are digested and absorbed quickly and do not slow down your digestive systems as you exercise. For your information, energy gel is better than energy bar because it contains a mixture of simple carbohydrates made of 1 or 2 sugar molecules, which give same energy boost that lasts for 2 hours, even though the energy gel only contains approximately 100 calories. This is due to the higher characteristics of digestibility that offers the runner better energy absorption and faster. In comparison to energy bar, which requires the runner to drink more water for digestion, but this will cause stomach upset to the runner while running. Well, students, we hope that you have understood and enjoyed the lesson and able to relate it to everyday life. Let us recap the important points that we have learned from this lesson. To provide energy for marathon, you should, number 1, take food that contains high energy but low GI because the energy will be released slowly during marathon. Number 2, do carbo loading 3 days before your marathon by taking food with complex carbohydrate. And lastly, number 3, consume a fast-release energy source, example, energy gel, during the marathon in the case you experience hitting the wall condition. We hope that this video will inspire you to become a marathon runner in the future. Hi there! I hope this video will help our students to achieve their learning outcome, which are to understand where does the human energy come from, to understand how the marathon runners get their energy for a long distance running, to understand which menus make a good meal before race for carbo loading, to understand why food with high GI is not suitable to be eaten on the race day, and lastly, to understand hitting the wall condition and how to overcome it. In segment 1, students are encouraged to find information on where does the human energy comes from and how does the runner gets his or her energy during marathon. Students must have basic idea on 3 major food classes: carbohydrate, protein, and lipid. And teacher will ask these questions. In segment 2, students must be able to explain where human energy comes from, and animation is used to explain basic idea on processes of digestion, absorption, and assimilation. Example, students must be able to explain how energy supply is obtained during long distance run. In segment 3, students must be able to explain glycogen stored in the muscle is used as an energy supply. Students must be able to explain choice of suitable meal for given menu before race for carbo loading. In segment 4, students must be able to explain basic idea on foods with low glycemic index or GI. The activity to determine glycemic index, GI, take a long time. So, the using of video, how the method is done, is recommended. Students needs to relate between GI and the rate of blood glucose change. Students are encouraged to explain choice of high GI food from a given data. Why food with high GI is not suitable to be eaten on the race day. In segment 5, students must be able to explain how the consumption of energy bars during running to overcome hitting the wall condition. Students need to have prior knowledge on calorie. Student needs to explain the information listed on Table A and Table B. Due to health and safety caution, you can encourage the students to make their own energy bar at home to make the lesson interesting. In segment 6, the information from Table A contain 4 categories of food that could make up a good energy bar, but in Table B, the information on calorie table is limited to certain food sample. To make the lesson more interesting, teachers could provide their student with more information on calorie of the food they are not mentioned in Table B, or encourage the student to find the information by themselves. We hope that you have enjoyed teaching your students to understand the lesson, and thank you for viewing this video.